but it contains also an important warning about the baboon, so do give yourself a moment to read the advice on the pamphlet about baboons and how to behave around them. Here on the left we are still seeing Falls Bay, quite a nice view, and remember that here in Falls Bay the water is fairly tepid, 17 to 24 degrees Celsius all year round, but over there to the right the water is much colder, usually between 8 and 11 degrees Celsius only. The highest temperature ever recorded on the western side of the peninsula was 14.7 degrees Celsius. And so many people will tell you that we are now driving along the narrowest strip of land in the world that separates two bodies of water from each other that are so different. Not only because of their difference in temperature, but also of course because of the different species of marine life that they harbor. As we continue along this road towards Cape Point, there'll be one or two things we see on the way that perhaps demand a bit of explanation. So I would like to quickly step back in history by a few hundred years. Remember that spices are well known to us. We take things like pepper for granted nowadays, pepper or cinnamon or cloves or nutmeg. These things were known to Europeans in Western Europe long ago, but they were expensive. They had to be carried to Europe from a long way away via the land routes. They were taken through the realms of powerful empires like the Ottoman Turkish Empire, where taxes and duties were imposed. By the time the spices reached Western Europe, they were too expensive for ordinary people to afford. Eventually Europeans think of ways and means of cutting out the middleman in Asia. They would sail around Africa to get to the spice-rich lands in the east themselves. And so Prince Henry the Navigator establishes a school of navigation in Portugal, and Portuguese explorers start sailing south looking for the mythical sea route to India. One of the earliest explorers is called Cow. He sailed south, but remember, he was not able to work out longitude precisely, and not wanting to be lost on the wide open ocean, he therefore stayed as close to the west coast of Africa as possible. But when he reached southern Africa, he found that a strong ocean current was pushing him back to the north. This was the Benguela current, which I told you about earlier. He reaches the coast of Namibia, and there he is forced to turn back because so many of his men had by now died of scurvy. Remember, in those days they were saying the ships had no refrigeration, they couldn't carry fresh food supplies over distances. The only thing that will keep well on a long trip was salted meat, so the sailors were surviving on a diet of salted meat and wheat biscuits. The wheat biscuits had been infested with weevils, which was more protein, but although their diet was protein-rich, they were not getting any vitamins, so they were dying of scurvy. Of course, also typhus at the century, but mostly scurvy. And back then, only 3 out of 8 men making those journeys would actually survive. And so Cow has lost many men, and he turns back from Namibia and goes home to Portugal.